It's a happy welcome, but I've been informed of a possible incoming horrendous take.
It's not a horrendous take. Also,
I'll be the judge of that.
Hello, welcome to Pro and Noob.
I was getting to it. Just had to.
First Pro and Noob, we are recording in the new year. As you guys are, we are recording this as
about a month before you're going to see.
Yeah, we're recording this as the first volume of Clone Wars is premiering on YouTube. Like that, we were in that moment. No, I don't think it's a horrendous take. I don't know enough about how people feel about this film to know if
it's considered one of the best movies ever made. Put it that way.
Well, and I see that. I think it is absolutely incredible. This is an absolutely incredible piece of cinema. My take, just to rip this Band-Aid off.
Yeah, please do. This might be a short one, depending on what he's about to say.
There are some movies that are long that go by in a fucking breeze. And there are other movies that you really feel their runtime. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing necessarily. This movie felt an hour longer than it actually is.
Fun fact, it was almost 3 hours.
I believe
the fear was from the studio it was going to be 3 hours. And I think they had to cut a bit out. But, yeah.
Again, I loved it. I thought it was absolutely incredible. I don't want to send the message that I didn't like this movie. I thought it was amazing. I cannot wait to talk about some of the themes and the big ideas. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, and they intertwine very beautifully.
In case you weren't aware by the thumbnail, the title, and everything, we are talking about Princess Mononoke.
Yes, a movie that feels very, very long.
That's such a bad take.
I had to watch it in two settings. I had to, because I watched, to set the table a little bit, I got Baldur's Gate 3 for Christmas. Finally got to see it.
And I am well aware that I got dumped for Baldur's Gate 3.
What?
I am well aware. You said you couldn't do this the other day. And I go on Blue Sky and man's playing Baldur's Gate 3.
No, I posted that Blue Sky squeet. Okay. First of all,
disgusting.
I posted my skeet while I was at the dentist, which is why I canceled, because I did not know
convenient
how much I would be like. I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to function after I get my face drilled in. Those were screenshots from the night before when I was playing Baldur's Gate with Alden and Michael, where I was posting about Johnny Bones, which is exactly how I've said it every time I've said that name.
I need to play Baldur's Gate anyway.
It is so much fun, and it is incredibly overwhelming, and in the best way. But no, I didn't cancel on you to play Baldur's Gate. If I did, I would have told you, hey, I don't have a movie in me right now. I'm knee deep in Baldur's Gate. Love you. I gotta kill these fucking goblins. I would have been straight with you about that. Put some respect on my name. Anyway, but no, this movie is really good. It's one of those ones that like you hear so much about, and this is.
What have you heard before? Or what did you hear before going into it? If anything,
that it's really good.
That's the extent of it.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I may have heard more detailed things here and there throughout my life. I just don't remember any of them.
Well, that's fair.
Or didn't at least. And so, yeah, I didn't really know where the story was going to go. You know, aside from those, like once you're watching it, you get a feel. But I didn't really know like what it was about. You know, I didn't read the synopsis on Max, which is where I had to watch it in the States. You said it's on Netflix abroad.
Because the rest of the world has it on Netflix.
Yeah, we have it on Max. So I had to watch it there. But yeah, it's I didn't know much going in, the Studio Ghibli, Miyazaki movies, a lot of them, like, I know that they exist. I know that they are like prestige animation. But that's pretty much it. I know that a lot of them deal in themes of life and death, and, I know a good deal of them have like a spiritual hook to them, to kind of like, expound upon a lot of metaphors on those subject matters.
It's a lot of like societal and capitalism critique.
Yeah.
It's a as well.
No, for sure. I didn't know if that was a Princess Mononoke thing or if it was a Miyazaki thing. But like that specific idea. But yeah, and like I know a lot of the iconography. Like I feel like I like going into my first Ghibli Miyazaki joint. I think like I think this is probably what it feels like to watch Star Wars for the first time. Where like like just insofar as like the iconography is so pervasive.
Yeah.
The icon, like it is so pervasive. Everybody knows what Darth Vader looks like. Everybody knows what a stormtrooper looks like. Even if you don't know the names, you know what R2 and 3PO look like.
Yeah.
Even again, you may not be able to tell me anything about them aside from spaceships and I am your father. But like so much of the iconography is just so ingrained into pop culture that like there's moments you go, oh, I recognize that. I recognize this. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of the Miyazaki stuff. Is that like I've seen
everyone's seen No Face from Spirited Away.
Everyone, I know I could pick No Face out of a crowd.
Everyone knows Totoro. Everyone probably has seen Sound and the Wolves before. I was about to say Sound and the Wolves, like that was I'm like, oh yeah, that. And again, I went into this thinking that she was the lead. I didn't even know about Ashitaka. I even know that was like I because it's one of those like the movie's called Princess Mononoke, so I'm like, oh, that girl with the wolves is Princess Mononoke, and they're gonna. If anything, she's the marketing for everything. Every cover is her because she's obviously Princess Mononoke. So, not that she's. I think she's only ever called that once.
Yeah.
In this,
and it's
Oshi.
Yeah, it's what's her name who says it. She's like Princess Mononoke.
Jane from Tarzan.
Yeah. And speaking of the cast, the wife of that bumblefuck.
Which bumblefuck is
that Ashitaka saves? Like homeboy with a broken arm.
Oh yeah.
I was like the whole time. I'm like, man, that voice is familiar. I can't put my finger on it, and I'm watching the credits. I'm like, that was Jada. That shocked me. Like, not that Jada Pinkett Smith, like the internet has a lot of opinions about Jada Pinkett Smith. And I am a Will Smith fan till the day I die. And we'll be
so you
here
should hate Jada Pinkett Smith then.
I have a lot of complicated feelings about Jada Pinkett Smith. But I also, as much as I love Will and his filmography and his music, I also don't know the man. So I also refuse to be that invested in how I feel about their relationship.
There's parasocial and then there's parasocial, right? Like,
yeah, it's like, oh, like I'm a huge fan. Like if I was at work tomorrow and Will Smith walked into the store I work at, I'd shit my pants, take a picture with him, tell him that I love Wild Wild West, and maybe cry. But I'm not going to be like, what's going on with you guys? Like, is everything okay? Like, I'm not going to do that because it's not my fucking place. But all that to say, Jada is she's not like a mega star.
No.
Like she's not like the biggest name in Hollywood. She never was.
She's done a lot of stuff though.
She is very prolific. She is very prolific. She is in a lot of like really impressive shit. But she's always been like B+ list in my mind.
Yeah.
And it stunned me to see her in this cast with such a bit role.
Well, this was, you go back. I'm trying to think when.
What was this? 97, right?
It's 97 or 96, but I think it was probably 97. So I'm just trying to think how long it would have been, because I know Disney's the biggest hand in these movies coming to the West and everything, mainly America, obviously. But I'm trying to think if they would have dubbed it straight away, if they'd have waited a couple of years. I'm pretty certain they did it straight away, certain of it. So it would have been like mid-90s for everything.
Because and the cast is not it's not holy shit. It's not like the late 2000s up to now where animated movies have kind of ridiculously bloated.
But even then, I'm not going to tell you who Ghibli has in their movies, but you're going to be surprised by a lot of them. As if you don't already know who's in certain ones.
I mean, yeah, I know, obviously I know that Pattinson is in Boy and the Heron, but other than that, I couldn't fucking tell you with a gun to my head.
You'll be very surprised by a lot of them.
Keith David, I picked up on instantly.
He's the first thing you hear, isn't it? Straight out the gate.
I don't remember. I remember hearing that. I think that sounds like Keith David, but whenever the big Chief Boar was speaking, I immediately went.
Keith David's the first one you hear. Yeah.
He is okay.
He's the boar at the beginning. He's not the boar at the beginning, obviously, because that boar is dumb and squealy. But the voiceover you hear before it gets into the whole. Yeah,
I thought that was him, and I was like, "What is that?" And then you hear him again later. But shouts out Corey Burton. Who we talked a lot about in Clone Wars. Obviously he's the current voice of Count Dooku, and I love him in that role. So Corey Burton's in here, John DiMaggio, also from Clone Wars, among many.
Minnie Driver's obviously Eboshi.
Yeah, I was saying.
Remember her name.
Yeah, Minnie Driver. I was like, holy shit, Billy Bob Thornton, Billy Crudup. Again, it's not Claire Danes. Fuck's sake, it's not. It's
not a small cast.
It's not a small cast. It's also again that's what I'm trying to say is right now in the current stage and era of animated cinema. A lot of the time, these movies put a big stake in the star-studded cast. Go back to Shrek. That cast is fucking insane. Myers, Diaz, Murphy, Lithgow, and all they did was add to it. Banderas, Timberlake, it's insane. So I guess when I went into this, I was expecting maybe there'd be one or two kind of wow type performances, but for the most part, I did not go into this expecting to recognize so many voices. So that was a fun little surprise there. But yeah. Mitch, I'll let you speak for a minute because I've been rambling for a moment.
Oh, you left me with nothing to talk.
I'm coming back to it, the usual.
It's just, and say this is a movie that, like Neon Genesis, I found early on. Right, it was another LimeWire gold mine for me, because LimeWire was a gold mine back in the day, and it's another one where 13-year-olds shouldn't. They can watch it, but they're not going to get anything from it. I think it's a bit too much for a kid. But
I think it's too heady.
Yeah, it looks cool. There's cool stuff happens in it, but you don't understand anything, right? And it's another one where you just watch it over the years. I just stuck with it and just kept going back to it and back to it and back to it. And it's not my favorite. For the longest time, it was my absolute favorite, the Ghibli ones. It's no longer my favorite. It's my second one now. That got bumped by Spirited Away, which we will get to eventually at some point.
Excellent. I mean, yeah, I was really impressed by this. I don't know what I would have made of this when I was younger. I think that I would like to think that while I don't think I would have been equipped as a 13-year-old
I think a lot of it for me was I don't get it, and I know other people aren't going to get it, but I enjoyed what I saw, so therefore it's that slight pretentiousness of everything. Of a 13-year-old, like I'm better because I like this movie and you don't. So I think that's the phase I was in at that point. But
there's something to that. I think there's also a good bit of like,
not that I ever got out of that phase, by the way.
No, of course not. I do think there's, like it's hard to miss like the environmentalist tones here, exploring, the effect of industry on the environment. That's hard to miss, that's Lorax shit.
This isn't even the most, I think the environmental stuff takes a back seat. Like you get stuff like Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, which is like Miyazaki's baby. Right. And then this and that get a lot of comparisons because they are very similar. But Nausicaa is very much on the, it's about the environmentalism and everything.
Well, I mean, I think that's interesting, though, is that like it uses the environmentalist theme as a backdrop to a study on like cyclical violence, and how obviously capitalism breeds violence. Be it the kind of violence that is kind of socialized, in recent time in the news for various obvious reasons. The concept of socialized murder has been discussed a lot, where you have companies that do not function unless suffering is in play, and how that's kind of hand waved away. So you have that element. You also have the way that like everybody is very convinced that nobody will be able to protect them from a coming calamity other than themselves. So very similarly to Neon Genesis, there's this idea of, how much can I rely on my common man to protect me if I would know I'm willing to hurt them? Which I thought was very compelling. I think Ashitaka, that is a character who could very, very easily have been incredibly boring.
100%, yeah.
That is a character who, like, for all intents and purposes, Ashitaka learns his lesson in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
100%, yeah.
And I think that is an incredibly brave angle. I think, pardon me, I think it would have been much easier to tell this story as Ashitaki is infected with the demon burn, goes, I need to find the monster that did this to me, turns his back on his family, on his tribe, to venture out to enact retributive violence against those who are responsible for this. And along the way, he becomes more and more of a pacifist and is willing, it is more and more willing to lay his own life down in the name of preventing bloodshed from other parties whom he is not really that affected by. That would have been such a straightforward story to tell. It's very simple. It's very archetypal. And I think that it was a very bold choice for him to leap into action, do what needed to be done to protect the village, pay the price for it, and go, I want to figure out how and why this happened. And he goes through the rest of the story able to keep his anger at bay in a very, very, for the most part. I mean, but even then, like, it is extrapolated into the idea of like, it is his infection acting on his behalf more than it is himself trying to be.
Yeah, I think the infection acting on itself you can put that down to when like limbs start coming off.
Yeah. Or hell, even when he tried to like draw his blade on.
That's the key one. I think everything else is a kind of he's not using it, but it's more to show that, you know, his whole thing, you know, seeing through eyes unclouded by hate.
Yeah.
Everything's like, that's not so black and white like everything else. Right? You know, well, not that anything in this is black and white really, but that whole thing of, you know, hate isn't inherently a bad thing. This whole Eboshi thing, you know, I think he shows that a couple of times, like when he takes out Eboshi and San. And he's just all flapping in the wind and it all comes out of his arm.
Well, even then, though, I would go so far as to argue that he was only able to intercede because of a lack of hatred. I think it is through the clarity that is granted by this not being as anywhere near as personal as it is between San and Eboshi. Like, because San and Eboshi have so much bad blood, it can't not have an undercurrent of hatred to it. Where for him, it's like, hey, like, nothing can be solved here with you two acting this way. No. So he intercedes and he drops both of them. Again, and I think it's really cool that, like, the way he is portrayed, again, it would have been very easy for him to be like slowly, you know, going mad with like power and rage. But like, you know, every time he has to take a life or he has to use any type of violence against somebody else, like, he is mournful, you know, like, he does not like the fact that, you know, because of his like crazy super strength arm, that a single arrow will behead somebody. You know,
that one poor guy.
Plus the guy, like the other two guys who lose their arms from an arrow. You know, it was very, I mean, those other guys are not coming up.
No.
But, you know, and I mean, again, sorry to do the obvious, but like, you know, Ashitaka, if we did that episode, so we did an episode on Knights of the Nerd Republic about 1.5 years ago, where we all pitched non-Star Wars characters as to why they would be like Jedi Council member level Jedi.
Jinbei won that episode, by the way.
Yeah, we had the Jinbei. I had my favorite character from Dimension 20. Master Splinter came up. Ezio Auditore came up. Like, it was a very interesting conversation. Bible Man came up, which was fucking hilarious. It went to such a funny place. But like, if we recorded that episode today, or if we ever did a part 2 to it, I'm leading with Ashitaka.
I knew you would. I knew if there was one thing you took away from that, it would be a comparison between Ashitaka and Star Wars.
He's very
not as a dig. Like, I just knew it straight away. Like, yeah, it's.
I mean, if that's how the Jedi should be written. You know, like, I would very much like this situation to end as peacefully as possible. Please don't make me fuck you up. You know, and we as the fans who are here for, you know, the weapons and all that, you know, sometimes we like it when the Jedi have to get a little violent, but, you know, it is like, I was like, wow, like, this is like, I get the let Miyazaki write a Star Wars story shit now. Like, he get like, again, Ashitaka, I immediately was like, he gets it. He gets it. Do what you want to do. And
they never let Miyazaki write a Star Wars story. I need that Nausicaa sequel. Just saying. Fair. The man's like in his 80s, and
I know.
I think late 80s. Like, if he goes, let him finish Nausicaa. Please, I beg
you. You know, and it's interesting because, like, it's funny because I've been having this like weird convergence of theme happening in my media diet lately. Because obviously, you know, back when we were doing Evangelion, you know, you know, we talked about it on air. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Last Song Standing, in their Kendrick Lamar season. And they made the joke about how Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is Kendrick's version of Neon Genesis Evangelion. And then Tyler, the Creator,
timing.
It was so funny. it was a message from on high to get me to like get off of the Christ imagery train track and on.
Someone had enough of me like not putting you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And just like, let's give this kid a break. No,
the Force provided. And at the same time, Tyler, the Creator's Chromacopia comes out, which is also a lot about identity and about, you know, the version of ourself that we put into the world. A lot of that album has to do with the concept of the masks we wear. You know, so a lot of those themes are kind of, you know, coagulating. I recently just finished the Legends Legacy of the Force novels. And again, a lot of that is about identity and like, you know, like about how one loses themselves and how one avoids losing themselves. But one very big theme that comes up in the last book, spoilers for a almost 20-year-old series of novels, is Luke talking about how he can't kill Darth Caedus, who is Jason Solo, his nephew. Han and Leia batting 0 for as parents. In Legends, one dies, one becomes a Sith, and then Jaina Solo rules. So they're 1 in 3. But a lot of it is Luke talking about like, I can't be the one to stop Jason. I am the only person here who is qualified to, but he killed my wife. He tried to kill my son. He's done all of these terrible things to the Order and to the galaxy at large. I can't kill Jason without it being in the name of revenge. And I have to make this someone else's burden because I can't do it. I can't do it without anger and hatred in my heart. And I don't know what happens for me when I do that. Which then becomes very important here coming into Princess Mononoke. I'm like watching all the media I'm consuming right now, like all kind of like start to overlap in a big way, and it's freaking me out. But no, I do love the ideas of cyclical violence. You know, I think it is very compelling to explore this idea of like there comes a certain point where it doesn't matter who drew first blood. You know, because like on one hand, obviously the industrialization of this forest is kind of the original sin, right?
Yeah.
But by the same token, for humanity to exist, there has to be there is inevitably a little bit of encroaching on those lands. You know, even without like settler colonialism, like, you know, the tribes across the Americas and etc. like did, you know, domesticate a lot of that land, did settle a lot of that land, built infrastructure into that land. It was never anywhere as pervasive. But it was still there. And that came at the cost of those human lives. You know, having to brave the elements, having to brave, you know, wild animals. So I'm sure along the way, the more benign version of that ground laying by humanity, when it was still more contained and more civilized, it was not, they were still losing their own to the forest. So they had to ratchet it up. So then the forest had to ratchet it up, and it just turns into this mutually assured destruction. Where even then it now turns into splintered factions between these two big ideas. You know, we have the people of the forest, and that splits into, you know, Son and the wolves and that crowd, and
the monkey tribe.
Then you got the monkeys and you got the boars. You know. And that's all of these like infighting factions that are all on team. Leave the forest the fuck alone. Leave the forest the fuck alone. But none of us agree on how we can make that happen. And then with the humans, we have Ashitaka's tribe, which was, you know, purported to be, you know, exterminated and cast out into exile. So they are in exile because they know it will come at the cost of their lives if they return to society at large. And then you have the samurai who are, you know, kind of reigning holy terror. You have Lady Eboshi, and you have Jigo. So you have all of these competing fucking personalities that are all contributing to the violence. You again with the capitalism of it all. You also have the way that there are people who directly benefit from suffering. You have, and again, I think that is one of the things I appreciated the most is that the evils of capitalism, the way it is explored here. You have harm by way of exploitation in the way that the lands are ravaged, in the way that the people are taken advantage of. That was something I found very compelling and something that they make clear with Lady Eboshi, but they don't explore that much, and not in a like, oh, you left this thread kind of dangling, but in a like they make it clear, and in her actions it's made clear that not only is she taking advantage of the land, you look at her workforce. It is, obviously you have these guys who she's sending out into these dangerous situations. But she also became like the last refuge for all of these sex workers and lepers whom she is exploiting, because all of them
is she exploiting them though? This is the question. Boshi's thing, right? Her whole thing. Is she actually exploiting them? Because society doesn't look great on sex workers or lepers. They're shunned. They're just left there to die, to do whatever, right? You see yourself, it's a refuge for this. Like they have a place in Irontown. Irontown isn't there inherently to make money. It's to be a place for all these people. Is that exploiting anyone?
So this is you make a good point. Whole thing of
there's no inherently bad person in this. It's all about perspective and who you're looking
you're
at.
Right. You're right. However, what I do think is it is the double-edged sword of Eboshi, though. Yes, she took in these lepers and these sex workers and these guys who didn't have any work. And, in doing so, she put a lot of people who needed people in the same room as each other. So a lot of people fell in love, and there's like almost everybody's married to everybody here. So that is true. However, there is a very fine line, one that I do think Eboshi crosses knowingly, between these people have nowhere to go, I can help them, and these people have nowhere to go, so where the fuck else are you going to go?
Oh, see, I don't think that's Eboshi in the slightest. I don't get that from Eboshi whatsoever.
I got a lot more malice from her. I like her.
She can have malice. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think.
Like I think her and Jigo are deeply are cruel, exploitative people at their core. I find very few redeeming qualities in them. I think the most redeeming qualities they have are borne out by Ashitaka's heroism. That he brings it out of them by showing because it's like. It's like a Mexican standoff, the whole reason that narrative device is so thrilling is that you don't know if you lower your gun, if the other guy's going to shoot. So you keep your gun up in the event the other guy's going to shoot. And so long as you keep your gun up, he's not going to put his down because he doesn't know if you're going to shoot him. Jigo and Eboshi are enslaved to that mindset of if I drop
100%, yeah.
If I drop my guard, I'm going to get fucked with. I also think
but then Jigo drops his guard when he helps Ashitaka though. So
yeah, when he has
not inherently a bad guy.
When he has no other choice though. You mean in the village? In the village, I think yeah, okay, cool. I do think that was also deeply self-serving though.
I mean, possibly.
I think because he clearly
could have easily,
Ashitaka, he clearly pegged him for being part of that tribe that was exiled and thought to be destroyed.
Possibly.
And went, let me explore what this is all about.
It still very much would have been in his character just to not do anything.
Sure. And again, they are very compelling people, but I do think that everything with them comes at a price.
I mean, sure,
the price of no longer having to live as a second-class citizen within the city, as a sex worker or as a as some galled upon leper. Come do this grueling labor for me and help manufacture weapons of war for me, and I will make you feel loved and taken care of. And with Eboshi's like ravenous ambition and hunger for power, and hunger to expand, she turns her back on everybody. When she has zero interest in going back to Irontown when she realizes it's been laid siege to. When she finds out it is under siege, there is not a moment of hesitation from her to go, maybe I should go back. It is no, she says they are on their own. I did everything I can for them on their own. Like, she makes the call. But then that hunting and killing the spirit of the forest has a higher premium than all of these people that she likes to masquerade as this altruist for.
I mean, sure.
Like,
part of me, she put most people in that situation. Like, is it inherently like cruel? Like, everyone's self-serving to a point, right? Especially when you're that close. But
yeah, but again, it is like, look at the way that all of those people put their faith in her. And they all put their faith in her in that way because she has played the part of this like salvation through capitalism, like that. And again, I think that is another interesting angle for her of the, like, if you exploit those who are without and mainly pay them in the dream of having, they will do just about anything for you. They will fight literal gods. They will be in that hearth for 4 days at a time. That's what the ladies say. They're like, our shifts are 4 days long. So that, I think, is like really, again, it's compelling. I'm not saying that she's poorly written or anything. I think she's very compelling. But I do not see anywhere near as many redeeming qualities in her. Like, it took her being maimed by the wolf and watching Ashitaka's attempted sacrifice to go, we fucked up. We got to make it right. That, in my opinion, I think is very defining for her. Jigo is... So okay. If Eboshi is like... If she is profit by way of extraction, Jigo is like the embodiment of like profit by way of by suffering. Like, Jigo leans fully into just abject suffering. There is no line he is not willing to cross. And I think he's one of those characters where, like, there's a lot less meat on the bone. Then there's a lot less meat on the bone as compared to like Eboshi, but the performance is compelling enough to make up for that. Because other than that, he is kind of that like one note, like, swindler. I'm going to double cross everybody by the end. It's just a matter of like what happens and who is, who's useful for me to double cross. It's very Hondo Onaka. But yeah, like with him, it's all of these cell swords. It's, again, like he hitches his wagon to, well, if we kill this, the spirit of the forest, then I get to cash in on this prize. And the reasons and the methods with which Eboshi and Jigo approach the spirit hunt, I think, is very indicative of who they are. Lady Eboshi, she sees it as a means to an end. It is, we will no longer have to worry about being attacked by these gods, and it will allow us to expand more. and I am going to exploit the forest and continue to exploit this wilderness by exploiting the death of this creature. Where with Jigo, it is, I have to inflict suffering, otherwise I cannot get ahead. I have to inflict death so that I can then take the head and take it with me and barter for my life with the Emperor. So like that, like them working like for the same end, but for very different reasons, I think kind of shows like the kind of like the pincer of like late capitalism suffering. You know, it is either people are benefiting from your suffering or you're being exploited to survive the suffering.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And you're getting it from both sides. And I think where the wildlife comes into play, I think is also very interesting because you have a hard time saying that the aggression that you see from the people of the forest is not, it's hard to say that it's unjustifiable. But the way that they lean into this idea of blinded by hate, of the idea of, you know, the wounds inflicted by the aggressor will fester for so long that you yourself become a part of the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think that idea and that metaphor is so perfectly and beautifully portrayed in this film.
Yeah,
you know, that idea of like, here is the bullet, here's this like little iron slug that keeps getting trapped in these creatures and making them full of anger and resentment. I promise I wasn't trying to do the To Pimp a Butterfly poem. Abused my power, full of resentment. Resentment to turn into a deep depression. Found myself screaming in the hotel room. Anyway. But no, I do really love the way that is characterized. And again, it works so well because you have Ashitaka as this kind of like central force of, oh, I saw firsthand kind of in a vacuum the distillation of this conflict. And I think that is another brilliant choice that is made, is that it is not that he witnesses the boar being attacked and he does not witness the boar attacking Irontown. What he witnesses is a boar that was driven mad by Irontown's transgressions, then come to fuck with his people. And I think that is brilliant because it puts him in this place of being able to go, the forest was clearly transgressed upon. But the angle we're taking is accidentally feeding them. That said, not my place to tread these waters. I think somebody who has seen this movie more times than me, I'm clocking in at 1.5 currently, could make an argument that there is kind of like a weird respectability politics to this movie.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You know, again, it's not my place. I like this again. The format of this show is such that I'm supposed to watch it once and you guys get my first thoughts. And I try really hard to sound smart when I talk about it. Whether or not that works is TBD. But I do think there is an angle you could take on this, that the movie is very much preaching, if you fight back, you're just as bad.
I mean,
do I think that?
Yeah.
No. Do I think that? No. Do I think there could be an argument for that in there, I think this movie has some interesting politics that could be pulled apart in very interesting ways. That's all I'm getting at there. Again, like taking this at face value.
Because, you know, after all, like the movie, whether you agree with this or not, it's just I'm pretty certain this is how you intended it. Like the movie has no central villain. Right, the villain's not a person in this movie. Eboshi's not the bad guy. Matey Boy's not the bad guy. The bad guy in itself is conflict. It's the idea of conflict, the whole concept.
Yeah, I would say that the villain is suffering. The villain is suffering. It is a suffering we incur upon others that make them want to rebuke us, and now we suffer, so therefore we must make them suffer. Yeah, it is cyclical violence is the villain of this story, 100%. It's just one of those complicated stories to tell that I think have really complicated politics that are really hard to adequately write and tell a story with that doesn't feel kind of, toothless of, you sometimes just got to be the bigger person and reach a hand out to the other guy. And sometimes the other guy's going to cut your fucking hand off for that. So the politics of this, I think, are really interesting and really complicated. Again, this is for 1.5 times. I'm not qualified to do the politics of Princess Mononoke and why it's liberal propaganda. I'm not qualified to have that conversation. I'm sure somebody could, and I would be very interested to listen to the angle on this that kind of leans into the respectability politics of it. But I do find it very interesting. I find San's role in the story very fascinating as well. Where I like the way that she represents this outsider advocate.
Good way of putting
and how,
Good way of putting it.
Where it's like because she doesn't fully belong to either of these sides in the same way that Ashitaka doesn't. But like she does see those evils. And I again, she's a character that I don't think has quite as much meat on the bones as Ashitaka or Lady Eboshi. But she remains compelling to watch and look at the story through her eyes. But yeah, other than story and big theme ideas, the score is remarkable.
It's so good. Do you know what it reminds me of? I don't know if you're going to agree with me here, but when I watched it, when were we supposed to do this? Is it Friday?
This past Friday, the 10th.
Yes. So when I watched it on the Thursday, I'd always thought it, but it really stuck out in my head this time around. It sounds like the first part of Phantom of the Opera.
Not at all where I was.
It's that little da 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 da. It's like that's the Phantom of the Opera bit.
I hear what you're saying. That is not at all what I thought of. There was something in that very lilting fantasy sound to the score that almost sounded like the Fellowship Suite.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Like there were parts of the music that sounded like it was going to do that. Do 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 do.
I get you.
Like it had some resonance there that I was like, that sounds like Lord of the Rings a little bit, and I like that. Or I guess Lord of the Rings sounds like this, but
so Peter Jackson probably got it from this, but
yeah, and that was another thing. Like I knew that the Miyazaki canon traffics a lot in fantasy. And
I'm trying to think if there's anything that isn't fantasy. Even Porco Rosso counts as fantasy. He's a fucking pig. Miyazaki likes pigs, by the way. Pigs and flying.
I just want to say that Porco Rossi is probably
Porco Rosso.
Well,
Porco Losso, I suppose it would be because it's Japanese and there's no L. It's all the R is pronounced like an L in Japan.
Okay, so Porco Losso.
Losso?
That is some glup shit if I ever heard it.
No, I am not taking that for that movie. That movie is goated.
I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad movie.
Adore that.
Mitch, I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying.
Hearing that name, it's like Glorpo Bingzoy, like type shit. But no, the score was incredible. Some of the cinematography was quite good. I didn't take very many notes. I was originally going to take notes because I was
He then found out it was 2.5 hours long. It was like, fucking. Okay.
The cinematography is incredible. Sorry, for those of you who had to pause the recording for a moment. No, I originally was going to take notes because it was going to be, I watch it Thursday night. Friday morning, I go to the dentist. Friday afternoon, I try to talk with my mouth not having any feeling, so I needed the notes. Where today I literally turned the movie off, put on a shirt, sat down to record. So I'm very fresh coming out. But one of the only notes I took was that shot, camera, as he rides the beast was amazing. That shot, arrow, as he rides the beast was amazing.
Are you referring to Yakul when you say beast?
I think
the elk.
Yeah, because at that point, like I was like all the way in the beginning of the movie, so I didn't even catch its name yet. I think it's the. I want to say it was whenever they do the tracking shot on the arrow as it like cleaves the guy's hands off.
Oh yeah.
And then when he rides through the first samurai battle, but just like in terms of fantasy stuff, like. I've been in a real fantasy mood. Like I said, I've been playing Baldur's Gate non-fucking stop lately. We're rearing up. For those of you at home, at time of record, this is the 13th. On the 15th, we are recording the first episode of season 3 of Ionized Bastards. Finally. I'm in my fantasy dice rolling bag right now. And watching Dimension 20 with my girlfriend as we do all the time. So like, I'm like, so like in a fantasy headspace that it was very refreshing and fun to get fantasy from a cultural perspective, wildly different than what I'm used to.
Yeah. Which is great timing because we're doing sci-fi next. So
yeah, there you
go. Though we might come back to fantasy. Well, we will be coming back to fantasy.
Just a matter of when.
Yeah. Because I think every Ghibli movie bar one is fantasy. I don't think he's done, or it's fantasy to an extent. Right, like Porco Rosso is, you can make an argument, but for the most of it, leave Porco Rosso alone.
Name
we are going to watch Porco Rosso at some point, and you are going to fucking adore. I know you're not saying it's bad, but you are going to feel bad you laughed at that.
It sounds like a Gamorrean who works in finance.
What about Ponyo?
Never seen it, but like it's...
No, I mean, no, just straight from the name.
Here's the thing. I have context for Ponyo. I've never seen the movie. I remember when it came out, I was a kid, and I saw the trailers all goddamn day long.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah. Porco Rosso or whatever the fuck. Like, I've never heard that name before.
Some respect on Porco Rosso. Tell you.
I've never heard that name before. Hearing it right now for the first time, I think you're fucking with me.
No. I would say Google it, but no, don't. No.
I know. I'm not allowed to Google shit.
Mm.
Oh, I got
this. Porco's a pig.
Oh, no kidding. But yeah. Yeah, like I said, this is absolutely incredible. I was blown away by this. Again, it's and I don't even want to say that it's a pacing issue, because I really do love how much this film takes its time.
I think you might have the same thing for a lot of them because I don't think any of them. Maybe the more recent one is shorter, but I think they're all about the same length.
Like I said, this one, it just felt like it was going on forever. Like the individual scenes felt paced. Like I love the pacing. Like they felt like it. I love the way this movie moved from scene to scene. It just like, I cannot tell you the amount of times where I was like, man, I feel like I'm an hour and a half in and I was only like 40 minutes. And I was like wow. It feels like a very long movie.
So here's a question for you that I know you know exactly what I'm going to ask. And you probably haven't got an answer for it. What would you take out to make it shorter?
I have no fucking idea. I don't like again, and I don't even think it is. Again, it's not that I want the movie to be short.
No.
It's just it feels so oppressively long, and I don't know what to do with that. But
I think a lot of the reason why it might be like that is this had so many production problems. This was. I don't want to say it's the first movie he pitched. And they're like, no, it's not an IP. We can't do anything with that, right? We can't sell it. It's too new. Or if it was after, or if he tried to pitch it after, but he eventually made it. But it was, I don't want to say it was a similar thing to like how Phantom Menace went, but it's kind of reminiscent of just how troubled that was.
I mean, Phantom Menace went off.
Like, this went over budget.
I can't stay without a hitch for Phantom Menace because it had one giant hitch, which was that sandstorm that destroyed the Mos Espa set. Like that was like the main issue Phantom Menace ran into. Like A New Hope, that was a.
I'm sure maybe
like A New Hope. Like if you go back. If we were hearing the things about A New Hope today that were happening while that movie was being shot, nobody would have given it a chance. Nobody would have given that movie a chance.
Yeah.
The amount of fucking issues that movie had getting off the ground. Oh.
I say, because this, they always promise to do, I think they always promise to do stuff, like physically, like the traditional way. Obviously, Japan tradition is a very big thing over there. And they ended up actually having to do a lot of, if not all, of like the composite shots digitally, just because they could not. Like just the amount of shots and in betweens that were just piling up and piling up and piling up eventually just got ridiculous. And they broke like worker right laws. So they were just doing all day, 7 days a week, no breaks, just to get through this. This was crazy.
That is a lethal dose of irony.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well. Working with Miyazaki apparently is not great. It's like hell on earth because some of the stories out there. This is probably why he was said to be the Japanese Walt Disney, but. Yeah, a lot of things went in behind this. I think actually one of the Ghibli directors actually ended up dying.
Oh my God.
Not long after this came out, just because of the amount of work. Like for 4 years, this guy just been nonstop and just ignored everything. It's like,
oh, that's awful.
Yeah, Japanese animation industry is not good. Not good.
No, that I knew. But
out some amazing stuff.
It's absolutely incredible piece of art. I wish it was produced a little bit more ethically, as now this whole movie is steeped in quite a layer of irony.
But yeah, well, it's how do you write something like this while doing that? Does he understand it? I'd hope he does. But then Miyazaki's not Ghibli. Ghibli is the company Miyazaki just works for. So might not all be inherently his fault.
Too many moving parts for me to have an opinion.
It's complicated. Like the movie, it's very complicated.
It is.
Like people in general, it's very complicated.
Indeed. But I liked it a lot. Good. Mitch, what's coming next on the pipeline?
We have something slightly different and special because we are going back to Evangelion for a one-off because Jarod cannot leave.
No.
Cannot leave.
I cannot progress.
No. Keep an eye out for that thumbnail. I've been having that idea stirring for a while. So yeah, we are going back for Evangelion because Jarod's, how do you want to put it? boyfriend, husband?
My dear friend, my homoerotic enemies to lovers companion, arch rival, and dear close collaborator, Scotty Jaro from the Bombadcast. Watched me on Genesis Evangelion top to bottom.
Is that because of you? I don't think I've actually asked you why he decided to watch it.
He very much, and he can explain this more, because he's going to Celebration in Japan. He was like, because he obviously caught a lot of like the shonen stuff back in the Adult Swim days. So like Dragon Ball, Naruto, that shit. But was like, I feel like I need to watch one of the more like foundational that I didn't just watch as a kid because Flashing Colors.
It's fair.
Shows. I think me talking about Evangelion was like a suggestion point, and he went through and he watched it, and
it's fair.
I look forward to reading our text messages on air because he had a moment and it was great. But we're going to talk about Evangelion with Scotty Jaro.
Yes, we are. So that'll be the week after this. This will be middle of February. You should know that because you're already watching here at this point.
Yeah.
And then once we've done that, we are obviously Cowboy Bebop, as we said before.
We're going to be bebopping around.
We just have to talk about some stuff with that because that's going to overlap with Celebration. So,
yeah, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to make it to Celebration, so we'll see. But we'll find out for sure. You got to iron out the logistics for that. But
anyway, we'll catch you next time. So
yeah,
I was trying to think of a sign off. What would you say?
Said be kind to the trees.
Oh, be kind to the trees. Yeah. He's a Lorax. He's speaking Japanese.
God, I love those memes.